This is Nicole Dyer, and in this episode of the Research Like a Pro question and answer series, we're talking about the question of how to use Soundex and how to incorporate the use of Soundex into genealogical searches. And in the course of this discussion, we also discuss using wildcard searches, and I share an example of a family that was not appearing in the results for the 1870 census. And so I show how the family was eventually found by using different strategies for searching. Okay, whoops. Our next question is about Soundex. Any tips or advice on using Soundex when searching for records? I appreciate how Soundex can streamline the search, especially when there could be incorrect phonetic spelling, but it can be time consuming. Also, would a Soundex census index capture someone who was a boarder and not the head of household? Okay, so let's talk about what Soundex is and see if we can learn from this. So the WPA came up with the Soundex coding system in 1936, and they created codes for surnames. Each code was supposed to be kind of a phonetic code to help you find similar surnames. And they always start with the first name, the first letter of the surname. So for elder, it would become E 436. So each code starts with that, and then it has 3 letters. So there's only going to be 4 digits in each surname code, even if the name is longer. And so it skips vowels, it skips H, W, and Y as well. So it disregards those letters, and then it gives the numbers 1 through 6 to the following groups of letters. So for Schultz, the code is S432. And here's an example of how it helps find phonetically similar surnames. So Schultz is sometimes spelled with a Z, but Z and S are both in this 2 category. So any variation of Schultz that ends with any of these is going to have the same code and wind up with the same number. So when you search in a database that uses Soundex, it automatically will convert the name into the code and then return anything that also is coded in the same phonetic way using Soundex. So Soundex is an older way of phonetically searching. It was created originally to search for censuses and to help you find people in a census whose surname wasn't spelled the exact way that we think it might have been spelled. Maybe it was transcribed incorrectly. Maybe it was spelled a little bit differently. And so it was supposed to help you be able to know how to search for different phonetic ways of saying that name. Well, now we have some new options to help us in addition to Soundex. So we're going to focus on Ancestry, but a lot of this is applicable to Family Search and other databases as well. So in Ancestry, we're not only limited to Soundex, but we also have wildcard searches. And when you're using wildcards in Ancestry, an asterisk like this can represent between 0 and 5 characters. So for example, if you put an asterisk at the end of MAT, it would return answers like Matthew and Matthew spelled THIU. The other wildcard at Ancestry is a question mark, and this represents only 1 character. So if you put the question mark here between the S and the N in Nielsen, it would return Nielsen with an O and Nielsen with an E. One of the really important rules for using these wildcards is that you must have 3 characters. So if you are searching for a shorter name, it's not going to work very well. Like if you wanted to search for the surname Lee and you only put in LE and then an asterisk, it won't work because you have to have 3 or more characters first for the wildcard search to work. Also, the first and the last characters can't both be asterisks. So you have to either put the asterisk at the beginning or at the end or in the middle, but it can't start with an asterisk and end with one. Also, you can't combine wildcard searching with Soundex. So you can do a Soundex search and then you can do a wildcard search. So if you want to activate Soundex searching at Ancestry, you have to click Exact and then click Soundex, and that will allow you to search for all of the Soundex coded similar surnames. Another technique that we should be using if we can't find our person in the census or in another record set where we suspect they should be We can do first name only searches where we leave the last name blank. And we have to fill in some of the other information, like maybe we have an exact county we're searching in, or we have a birth year that's kind of uncommon, like maybe they're going to be 80 years old, so they're born in like 1770 or something, and it's the 1850 census, and there's not going to be that many people at that age, or we can narrow it down to a particular county, age, and birthplace. Maybe we leave the first name blank and the last name blank, and we just want to focus on every female in this county of this age and this birthplace and see who comes up. And so these are some of the ways we can search when we're not finding our person, but we think they should be there. We can also search for other members of the family. And if you haven't yet read these articles on Ancestry, these can be helpful for really understanding how to search with spelling variations, with wildcards, and with Soundex. So we're not just limited to Soundex, and sometimes these other options will be more useful for us. And in the article at Ancestry, actually, this isn't an article. When you search the databases at Ancestry and you click this exact button, it shows you exact and then you can click sounds like, similar, and initials. And this is for first names. Then if you click about these settings, it opens up this box here. And it says, when you use default settings, we look through every first name we have recorded in our more than 29,000 data collections and pull out any record where the first name is exactly what you typed, a phonetic match of what you typed, a first name which has a similar meaning or spelling as the one you typed, an initial that matches the name you typed, and we also may return records that do not match the first name you typed in as described in this list, but strongly match other criteria. So it even expands beyond the first name that you put in if you select similar. These records are also evaluated against the other criteria and are ordered based on how well all the elements in the record match your search. Now for the last name settings, it gives you the option to use Soundex. Soundex is only available for last names. And so if you click exact and then you click Soundex, you'll get the Soundex searches. And you actually don't have to really do much. It's not very difficult to search Soundex. It's not going to be time consuming. You just click exact in Soundex, type in your surname, and it converts it to Soundex for you and searches that collection for any surname that also matches that Soundex code. And so then if you also choose phonetic variations, sounds like, this is even broader than the Soundex, and it actually will choose the best algorithm for sounds like, because Soundex is focused on English spellings. If you're using like a Jewish name, then it's going to have a different algorithm that it uses, like the Deutsch-Mokotov phonetic algorithm. So that is one of the limitations of Soundex, is that it is only for English sounding, English type surnames. All right, and then similar variations, it will search for spelling variations that are commonly used. And so you would probably want to try all of these. And if that fails, then you'll want to try wildcard searches. So here's an example of what it looks like to do a Soundex search. I typed in Lewis Tharp, I clicked exact, and then Soundex in the surname section. And then these are the results that I get. And so you can see it gets Tharp. It also brings back Thorpe. And then what happens with these is if a comment has been made by a user that the surname was transcribed wrong, then it will also bring that back, but it won't show it until you click on this. And then I also have Troop, which I'm guessing is either a similar spelling. Oh, well, Soundex skips H's. So it would be TRP. And so this is also TRP. So that's why it brought back Troop. And Trebu also similar. I think B and P are in the same Soundex family. So it can kind of help you see why you're getting all these results when you understand how the Soundex code works. And this first one is actually correct here. So he wasn't difficult to find in the 1850 census. But there was a difficult woman to find in my mom's case recently, and she said I could use this example because I think it's such a good example. So Clumsy Weatherford was very difficult to locate in 1870. So I thought I would try all these different ways of searching for her, knowing now that my mom had found her already in 1870 in her recent research project, I thought, okay, if I was going to use all the things that we just talked about, wildcard searches, Soundex searches, would any of those be successful in locating her? So it was kind of just an experiment. So here's what I found. So her, just so that you understand the case study here, Clemsy Klein, her married name was Weatherford. She was born in 1820 in Alabama or Illinois. And so in the 1860 census and the 1880 census, they said different things. Her husband's name was Henderson Weatherford. She lived in Dallas County in 1860 and in Wise County, Texas in 1880. She had the following children. And in the 1870 census, probably her youngest children would be there. Samuel Henderson Weatherford, Isabella D. Weatherford would be like 12. Susan Louisa Algeline Weatherford maybe would still be there. She would be 18. Maybe she would be married. Amanda M. Weatherford would be 19. So some of these older children could be out of the house already. So we're looking for her with these younger children and with her husband, Henderson. So going to the 1870 federal census, I typed in Clemsy and clicked exact, sounds like similar, and initials. Then I typed in Weatherford and typed in and clicked everything. So I want to find all the things that sound like, that are similar, and the Soundex ones. I put in her birth as 1820 and the location is Alabama. Then the results came back and none of them were a match to her. None of them looked good at all. The birth year was okay. The birthplaces were all over the place. There was only one in Alabama, but it was C. Weatherby, and I don't think she would be in Alabama. So, and I didn't see any of the relatives I thought I would see. So even though this brought back a lot of similar type of things like Weatherby, I didn't think Woodruff would be it, but Waterbury and Weatherby were possibilities, but these just didn't seem like a match. So I tried again, and let's see, what did I do here? Can't remember, but then I decided to use wildcards. And so remembering the rule that I had to include 3 characters, I decided to put the asterisk in the middle. And so I put CL asterisk Y and WE asterisk D in case the middle part of the name got messed up. And then I kept the birth as 1820, but because the location of her birth varied from 1860 to 1880, I left that blank in case it was different again. And that's when I found Clarrisy Welaford, which is indeed the record that my mom had found in her research project. She actually found this record by searching for the son, Samuel Henderson Weatherford. And she was living in Missouri, which was not where we suspected she would be. But it did have Talitha E. Welaford and Samuel H. Welaford. Now we think Talitha E. Welaford is Isabella D. Weatherford, but Talitha and Talitha might have been interchangeable. But when looking at all the information, it seemed to match. The thing that made it really seem to match is that on the same page was her sister living down here. And that was a really important find that my mom made to make this all come together. Well, looking here, we see it does actually say Welaford, but this definitely says Clamsy, not Clarrisy. And knowing that her name is Clemsy, we can see why this is Clamsy or Clumsy. So with the different variations, those wildcards provided that additional flexibility to find a surname that was just written down differently. I think that the person who wrote it down just didn't hear it correctly. With a Southern accent, Weatherford could sound like Welaford, who knows? And so I did try some different variations to use at least 3 characters and not putting the wildcards at the beginning and the end. If I put the asterisk at the beginning, I can't have it at the end, but I can put 1 at the beginning, and you can use more than 1 too. So I tried out all these different combinations, and this one also worked when I put the asterisk in different places. It brought back even another person, Dilsey Weaver, which was interesting to see that. So I would suggest playing around with these variations in the wildcards if you're really stuck and can't find your person. Try removing birthplaces, birth years, those could be wrong. Try broadening your search to places where you hadn't thought it could be, whether it's outside of the state you think it is or whatnot. But I would say that searching with Soundex shouldn't be time consuming because all you have to do is click that button in Ancestry. But what can be time consuming is trying all these different variations of searching. But I think it could be worth it because eventually, hopefully, you'll find something that is a match.